on. Hey everybody, so my name's Alan and today we're going to go through some processing on some live recorded drums. These drums are recorded extremely well. This is on a project I'm working on and I just want to show you what I did and how relatively easily you can make your drums, your live recorded drums, sound great. Now these have already been recorded in a great studio. They have a good sound to them. I didn't have to do a lot to them. So let's check it out. Here we go. This is the raw stuff. Live recorded already sounds pretty good. This is what it turns into. Again, here it is raw. Sounds so much better. All right, so let's get into it. So the raw tracks, let's go through this first. First off, these aren't in order. I didn't do anything to it. Everything's set at unison. The only thing I did was pan out some overheads and some percussion ahead of time. So you got a little bit of the stereo feel. So the first things up here is a hi-hat. Standard stuff. Kick track. Left overhead with the right overhead. Let's play them both together. Nothing fancy going on, just good old-fashioned good recordings. Percussion tracks. Those are great because there's no bleed in it. It was obviously recorded after. Snare bottom. You can hear some gating already on there. Snare top. Pretty good gating. This is our tom, our high tom. I got him panned all the way to the left. Wait, that's not the actual tom. Let's go find a tom hit. One thing I want to go over first, when I do toms, I do not use a typical gate. Although Slate makes a really good one. What I do is I cut it out. So let's separate this a little bit. So there's some room to see it. And then let's listen to it. So it goes down about right there. It actually goes a little farther. But what I'll do is then create a fade on the clip. So let's look at this clip, right? There's our clip. And I create a fade to the last transient. So you get nice and smooth. And then I go through and I cut all the hits out. So I'll go to the next one. All right. Here's a nice little double. So about the same thing somewhere down here. Let's hear it. So we'll pull that all the way to a transient like that. And then you get left with, turn that off so you can hear it. It's actually a little quick. I would pull that out a little. Let's hear it now. There, that's in time. Now you can find the transient right there. Nice and smooth all the way out. So I go through and I cut through like this, that guy, gone. And I just leave myself with just the hits. And if you're tracking, always go through and take an individual hit of each drum. That way you have a sample of that. And then you can put in, we're going to go through Slate's trigger here in a minute. You can go through, you can put that in. And then you're ready to go. And you can just trigger a sample and it's nice and it's clean. And you wind up with a really good drum sound. Last thing we got here is a tambourine track. It's right up the middle. Sounds great. So let's go to our actual drums. Sounds so good. So first thing, let's go through. First thing you're going to say is that sounds really different. And that is because I'm using Slate trigger. This is just a sample triggered. Here they are. That's the main attack kick. Room, one main, together. Sounds very natural. I also have the natural kick, the original kick right here with an EQ on it and then a gate so that it sounds like. And actually, this kick with the sampled kick together sound really good. But later on in the mix, I found that I didn't actually need that natural kick. It was getting in the way of some of the other instruments. So I pulled it out. But in just the context of just the drums, that natural kick sounds really good in there. Let's go into the snares. Sound great. I got the same thing going. I got a trigger. Now, triggers can be a little difficult sometimes because snare rolls can hit different intensities, all that. So you've got to really kind of play with the sensitivity, the re-trigger point, and then the detail. These are just straight up the middle. It all sounded pretty good. What I might actually do is pull this mix knob right here back. Play with it a little bit. Now mix with the snare top sound, we got this. I also cranked the gain up over here, and we got a little bit of just stock EQ in here. I got a lift at 825 hertz. Pay attention to 825 hertz. You've probably heard from other people, the magic is in the mid-range. Joseph Puig said that first, I believe. It's his quote, and he's right. So our snare together, in context of the mix. One thing I forgot to show you, pay attention to sampled kicks because they are often very heavy because in the context of just the sample alone, it sounds really good, but in the mix, it might have too much going on in it. So on my kick bus, I pulled off, starting at 32, going down. That might sound better right there, around 49, 50 hertz. You don't need that much low end in a rock song. Typically, it's up to the client, or if you're the client, if it's your song, do what you want, make it sound good to you. But typically, I don't find I need that much bottom end on a kick. It doesn't really feel natural in the context of a very lively song, which this is. So we've got snares. Here's the toms. You can see I cut, spliced everything out, so I just have the hits. Let's hear a tom roll. Right here. And I've got them panned wide, 50 left, 50 right, as far left as I can go and as far right as I can go. So toms, solo, here we go. This one actually sounds, now I'm listening back to it, I'm going to pull it out a little more, but we're going to fade it to that transient. That might be a little long. Let's hear it in the mix. It's a little long. That's why I pulled it in. So let's pull it back and let's pull the fade. Let's actually try it from this transient. Let's see how it sounds. A little longer, actually. A little longer. And I'm just going for feel. That feels pretty good. That feels good to me. All right. And that's toms. And I don't think I'm doing much of anything to them. We've got a little bit of EQ where I rolled off some of the top end because you can hear, we'll turn this off. You hear that overhead, the crash. So I just rolled off a little bit and then a bump at 939, again, mid-range. And you can see in context of 3 decibels. It's about a decibel up right there. It's not a lot. If you got into the mix, you could probably add more, and you probably would, but I start there. Again, this is all really well recorded stuff, so I didn't have to do a whole lot to it. There wasn't a lot to fix. It's a great song. Hi-hat, just chilling in the song. I'm going to pull it out. You can hear a lot of the hi-hat in the overheads, which are coming up next. But a lot of people won't use a hi-hat track. They'll pull it out completely because they have a lot of bleed from other instruments. In this case, it worked. There it is. Let's hear the overheads. Going back real quick to the hi-hat track. So on the hi-hat track, I really didn't do a lot. I originally had a stock EQ pulling everything out at about 1K, high pass all the way up there. I wound up with a Pro Q because I wanted to there was a sound in here, 5700, that I did not like in the hi-hat track. So back to you. Let's hear it. Yeah, there's just a noise in there. You can barely hear it. It's not that loud, but I pulled out about 3 dB of that. And then I compensated with a bump at 3800. So pulled out at 5700, compensated with a bump at 38. I typically find myself doing that. If I'm pulling something out, I want to add a little bit more just to balance that back out. Everything's about balance. And again, I high passed up to 224 on this. And that was really because there's some snare sound in there and I wanted more snare. And where's there more snare? In the hi-hat mics. I wanted a little more natural sounding snare. Okay, continuing on the hi-hat track. So we've got the Pro Q3. Let's pull you down here. So the Pro Q3, we took out at 5700. It had a sound in it that I just didn't really like. Let's hear that sound. I don't know how much of that you could hear, but it's a sizzle in there I just didn't like. I'm funky about hi-hats sometimes. And then I added back 3800 just to kind of compensate for that. Let's hear the 3800. Very nice sound. And then I used the Brainworks SSL, what is this? The 4000. Just a touch of compression. It actually comes in a little bit more. There's a hi-hat kind of ride right here. And I wanted some harmonics that plug-in offers. I wanted to sizzle a little more and cut through a little more. So that is it. All right, overheads. Let's hear the track without the overheads. With the overheads. That sounds so good. Okay, on the overhead buzz, Pro Q3, cutting at 189. You can cut that more, just depends. Now, here's a little trick for doing stuff that is very wide stereo. This is a mastering trick, actually. So you don't want to add a lot, but a dynamic lift shelf. Now, this is at almost 6,000 hertz, so above human hearing. But it's way up there. It's a dynamic EQ. And it's way up top and it's set just to the sides. See that little S? That means sides. It's lifting up the sides and it makes the sides really wide and sounds really good and it gives a lot of movement. And that dynamic EQ in this thing is beautiful and it sounds great. But that's a mastering trick. And a lot of times I'll put that on a mastering bus just to bring up the sides and make the edges and you get the nice airy sound. I don't think I did anything else. Actual channels? Nope, not a thing. Percussion track. We got an API 2500. We're doing parallel compression, so it's roughly around 80%. Really high threshold. The attack is as fast as it goes. The ratio, it's 1.5. Pretty quick release, not too fast, not too slow. We've got a high pass filter on it, standard kind of settings, and then a little bit of lift from it. Without it. This gives it a little bit of feel, a little bit of movement, not doing a whole lot. Again, this is recorded really well. Stock EQ, A lift at 880. Again, that's one of my favorite frequency ranges. And it was between 700 and 900. It's a lot of information, a lot of good stuff going on there. Panned off 9 to the right. And then let's look at our master bus here, or our drum bus rather. This is not parallel. I usually run a parallel on this, and it's usually outboard. I've got a Better Maker 502V CV in my 500s rack over here. Usually I'm paralleling into that. But given that this is all on the computer, I wanted to show you, you really don't need outboard gear to make stuff happen. If you can't do it in the box, the outboard gear is not going to help you probably. See, with it turned off, it sounds flat. With it on, off. Just comes to life with this compressor on it. Threshold, pretty high threshold because I'm not running super hot. The attack is set to 3, which is a pretty I think it's 3 milliseconds. So it's not super fast, not super slow. We got a ratio of 4. Really quick release coming out of it. Or set to knee, it's set to hard, so it's hitting hard. Medium tone, and it's an old feedback system. Let's see a high pass filter on it. Tear it. Sounds great. Again, so you guys can see I didn't do a whole lot, didn't need a whole lot. And that's really what it's all about, is figuring out what actually serves the song. Just because I got plugins, and I love playing with plugins, I got a bunch of awesome harmonics plugins in here, like the black box right here, which typically will live on a drum bus for me. But I just didn't, it's like, it sounds good. Why add more stuff to it? I mean, we can throw it on there for a second. Let's just hear it real quick. Might sound a little better with that on there. But when we get into the rest of the song, I can't play you all the songs. It's just not there yet, and the band might not be okay with it. Maybe, I don't know. I'll play a little bit of the guitar here. That sounds great. That sounds so good. I love it. All right, I'm going to turn all this off. That's it, guys. So I hope that helps. If you got any questions, please let me know. Like and subscribe. I appreciate everybody listening and watching. Again, if you have any questions at all, feel free to hit me up. I try to get back to everybody as quickly as possible. So thank you all, and I'll have another video for everybody very soon. Thanks. Bye.